Representative Joe Alfieri, if he can join us, he asked a few questions this morning in the House State Affairs Committee with regard to a Senate bill that was about election security and so forth. And Secretary Phil McGrain, Secretary of State, I'm sorry, Phil McGrain, yes, it is Phil McGrain, was testifying in front of the committee this morning. But so was this activist who's been watching election integrity. I want to have her introduce herself, and then we can jump right to Representative Heather Scott asking her about what she has witnessed during her time of observing what's going on with our elections. So Jody Arnold here. Let's go to her first.
Chairman, my name's Jody Arnold, and I live in District 23, and I am the Republican representative for Logic and Accuracy Test. As I know, there's no one else but me that has signed up to do that for the whole state. And I would like to have added to the bill. I do appreciate all the work that the Secretary has done, but I would like added to the bill that they test the e-poll books and that they also test for 34901 to be the unique identifier that's required in law. And I stand for questions.
Okay, and then was it Heather Scott, you guys, or who? No, yeah, about the e-poll book. So if you've been following the election stuff going on, it's like, these machines are connected to the internet and they're subject to hacking and fraud and so forth. But everybody talks about the machines and the ballot tabulators and everything. But one thing that is kind of left out of this are the e-poll books. When you go in to vote these days, you sign in on an iPad or some sort of tablet, and that tablet is connected to the internet, and that tabulates in real time who's coming in to vote. And you sign your name, you check it off, okay, that person's here, and you move on. It shows all of your information. You compare, I believe the person who's verifying the information looks at your ID and everything, and you sign on a poll book, an e-poll book, an iPad tablet device. It's no longer the big books that they print out where you sign in the book, which is what we've been doing forever. And if you attended the GOP caucus in March, that's how you signed in. You signed your name along with your address right there in the book. Now it's all on a tablet. So here she is explaining that the tablets aren't in part of this auditing process or accuracy testing process. Let's listen to that.
Can you explain a little bit more detail the logic and accuracy test, what that means?
Yes, Chairman, Representative. A logic and accuracy test is supposed to test all the machines that are performing in the election. In Canyon County, in November election, prior to in October, we tested the machines, and they put all the paper ballots through that they have. They call it a test deck. And in that, all of the patterns that are supposed to be tested for the yes and no's and the candidates came out right. And one of the people that were there, they asked if you could actually put in a copy of the paper ballot and test to see if a forged ballot could go through. And we did that for the standalone scanners that go in the precincts, and then also for the scanner that is the absentee scanner. And the paper ballots were accepted, the photocopied paper ballots. So that is part of the logic and accuracy test that they do for the public. Right now, they do not do an e-poll book test. I did a public records request for Fremont County for the election that they had a special election in August of 2022, and it was supposed to be just Republicans voting for the special election. And I got all of the public records back from the e-poll books, and I did each person to see if they were a Republican, Democrat that voted, and I found out that some were allowed to vote that were Democrats, and if they had the e-poll books tested, that wouldn't have happened. It happened to be that the difference between the two candidates in the election, it was less than the number of people that were not Republicans that voted. So that is why I believe that those two things need to be added in law.
Wow. If you were in Idaho paying attention to elections, that made news that there was an elections office in Canyon County. The election office in Canyon County accepted photocopied ballots without detecting that they were fake. This made news. Okay. What was interesting is the Idaho Press. Here's their headline: "A Canyon County machine accepted photocopied ballot, but officials aren't worried. Here's why." Okay. When that article was picked up by MSN, MSN.com said the exact same thing, that a Canyon County machine accepted a photocopied ballot, but officials aren't worried. Here's why. They published the exact same article. You love how the media just immediately runs cover for this kind of stuff. The Idaho Dispatch, which is an alternative. Here is this the Idaho Dispatch? Yeah, here's the Idaho Dispatch, which ran the article: "Canyon County voting machine accepts photocopy of ballot during a test. Another test scheduled for Thursday." There's a pretty straightforward headline that gets you thinking, oh, okay, well, that was interesting, but I'm glad they're doing another test. Let me figure out why. It didn't tell you how to think. It didn't tell you what to worry and what not to worry about. But it was obvious that when the Idaho Press put out their article, that they knew it would make people get worried. And so they had to include in their headline, but officials aren't worried. Gee, thanks for that. Well, we are worried. Sorry, is that her name? I keep saying Judy, but it's Jody. Jody Arnold is worried. God bless her. She's the only Republican in the entire state standing up to watch over these tests. Incredible. What's the next clip? We got more on this. Go ahead, play another one. This is incredible. I believe Joe Alfieri had some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jody, good morning.
Good morning.
On that logic and accuracy test in Canyon County where the photocopies were submitted, what was the result? What happened? Was that system verified and used in the election? Jody?
Chairman, Representative, we had a hearing, a board hearing for the commissioners where we discussed this issue, and they allowed the election equipment to be used after they found out.
Follow-up? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in the election where Democrats were voting in an election which was supposed to just include Republican ballots, what was the result of that?
I don't believe that anyone knew, Chairman, Representative, I don't believe that anyone knew this occurred. Okay. I only knew that this occurred because third hand, someone asked me to look into this for them. And so I did, and that's what I found out. To this date, I believe that the person that won is still in the position that they're in.
Follow-up? Yes, if I may go back to that, the first part of that on logic and accuracy test. I have trouble saying that. Did anyone go to the commissioners and protest the use of the equipment? Do you know if
Chairman,
anyone testified about that?
Chairman, Representative, yes, I did. And numerous other people did. Subsequently, High Desert Republican women made a resolution to it, and also District 23, Canyon County area, also made a resolution to it. And to this day, it has not really been addressed.
Yeah. Final question, sir.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Jody, what type of equipment was that? Who was the hardware manufacturer?
It is Hart.
Hart. Thank you.
Oh, okay. But officials aren't worried. Nobody's worried about it. They just kept the machines. Nobody did anything, and they went on with the election. It's March 25th. Did the Idaho Press follow up? What happened? I Googled, I couldn't find anything. It just come on. It's mind-blowing, people. It's mind-blowing. So she comes and testifies in March about something that happened in October of last year, where the machines were running through photocopied ballots without problem. Oh my goodness. But the press, the Idaho press, MSN.com, officials have no worry. Unbelievable. I want to play this one more clip. Should we play the crane clip first or Joe's next clip? Let's do the crane clip, and then I believe Representative Joe Alfieri is joining us. So let's play this crane clip real quick, so that way we can get a little bit more meat on the bone, and then we'll bring in Representative Alfieri who joins us. So let's watch this clip.
Questions for you. To Jody's question, the e-poll book audit, why is that not included in this legislation?
Mr. Chairman, really because this chapter and section relates to voting equipment. It doesn't relate to the e-poll books. And so not to say there isn't merit for us to look at how we do that. We do test the e-poll books, but it's not as clearly defined as it is for the voting equipment. I welcome a further conversation on e-poll books.
So maybe legislation coming in the future. Second question is the issue that she raised versus the Democrats voting and the Republicans. I'm sure you're familiar with that issue. Did your office get involved in that? Did you do an investigation? And if so, what was the results?
Mr. Chairman, the issue that she specifically referred to, I am familiar with it. It was under Secretary Denny that it occurred. So I'm familiar with it on the back end, just like Ms. Arnold is. The issue was there was an error in the May primary in 2022 in Fremont County. And I think it was the certification of candidates is where the original error occurred. But it was close enough. Fremont County is a very small county. So the results were close enough that a new election was ordered to happen in August. And so the specific issue was the e-poll book had not been set up for a primary election because it was an August election when it should have been. And so that's at the core of the problem. I know that election was scrutinized closely after the fact, but it shouldn't have happened, in all honesty. So I'm familiar with it and have used that as a learning lesson as we move forward.
Good. Thank you.
What is going on? Folks, what is going on? So Fremont County used a non-primary roll book for a primary election, and Democrats were allowed to just come in and vote? I mean, that's what I'm hearing here. And then of course you got the photocopies being used in Canyon County. And then Phil McGrain said that poll books aren't voting equipment. I'm sorry, isn't an e-poll book voting equipment? If you have to, as a voter, it may not be the place where you actually vote, but if the only way to vote is to first go through the e-poll book and sign in, that's voting equipment in my estimation. Representative Joe Alfieri is joining us from Coeur d'Alene, District 4, a warrior when it comes to election integrity issues. And please, thank you for joining us. What was going on in the committee today? I felt like there was bombshell after bombshell going on. What?
Yeah, I agree with you. Hi, Matt. Good to see you again. The bombshell, of course, was the Canyon County testimony from Jody Arnold and the acknowledgement from the Secretary of State that it happened. I mean, this is huge because what happened. I'm just joining you, so I'm not sure how much you've covered. But I heard rumors of this several months ago that Canyon County had run photocopies through during its certification process, and the photocopies had been accepted, but I had never been able to actually get that verified. So now we've got that verified. So we now see the potential problem of what this hardware can be manipulated to do, which is to accept ballots that are invalid ballots. And that's apparently what happened in Canyon County. And the fact that they went ahead and held the election with equipment that had failed the logic and accuracy test is astounding. It's astounding. It should scare the heck out of every one of us in this state and across the country, frankly. This is huge news.
It is. And I remember following this at the time and wondering what they were going to do about it. And then the news sort of just kind of filtered away. And I believe the commissioner of Canyon County, or the clerk of Canyon County, recently resigned, not in relation to this per se, perhaps, not at least not publicly, but that position, that person left. And that's fascinating. But and then in Fremont, was I correct in hearing in Fremont they used a non-primary roll?
Yes, for the polls, using the poll book. Yeah, they had a 9 primary roll, and that allowed Democrats to come in and vote in an election when they shouldn't have been voting. Yeah.
This is the first I'm hearing of it. When did that happen?
Well, Matt, but we know there are no election issues in Idaho because we do it all perfectly.
Joe, you're a comedian tonight, all weekend.
We're not talking about necessarily criminal activity. I don't think that's what's going on. But there are enough errors and there are enough problems that exist. We need to tighten this up far beyond where we are. And frankly, this is a decent bill. S1394 is a decent bill. It does several things that we need to get done, but it's not complete. I'm concerned about the fact that poll books are not considered as something that needs to be audited and are not, can be connected to the internet. We know that they can.
Yeah, and they're voting equipment. I mean, if you need them to be able to process somebody in order to vote, to me, that's voting equipment.
Exactly. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Of course, I kind of like these this kind of stuff here. Where you write your name. That's a good poll book as well, which we used to use. You go to a person who knows you, right, and looks at your identification, and doesn't match it across a electronic signature, which we know is so incredibly inaccurate. There's no way an electronic signature is close enough to your real signature. We all know that. We've all signed documents electronically. It looks nothing like what we normally sign on paper. So that's another issue. That's another issue. We made significant progress in this hearing this morning by pointing out these problems, which we can now follow up on.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, these bombshells being mentioned and referred to and acknowledged as true was definitely powerful this morning. They weren't just rumors or press releases or they weren't just. These are real things, and it sounded like Brent Crane was ready to hopefully hear them get addressed, and hopefully you guys, it's an election year, so hopefully you all return to address this kind of stuff. But when I say it's an election year now, and we have all these problems, what happens if you're in Kootenai County, I'm in Kootenai County. What happens if Kootenai and this is a what if? It's a hypothetical. Yes. What if that day the non-primary roles end up on the e-poll books? How would we know? Who's going to fix it? Yep. I mean, if it was a mistake in Fremont, it could be a mistake in Kootenai County or in Ada County or in anywhere else. Joe, go ahead.
Matt, that there are bad actors out there.
Sure.
We know that. We've seen it all across the country. What's gone on in Arizona and some of the other states. So those folks are out there. So far, we think they haven't gotten to us. We don't know for certain.
Yeah. You don't know until you find them. Yeah. So you attended the GOP caucus, I imagine, on March 2nd. Did you attend your caucus for president?
I did. Yes. I represent 420.
Fantastic. So what the process there? Walk us through that process and why that couldn't work across the board.
Well, to go to the bottom line, it absolutely could work across the board. After the caucus, I spoke with the Secretary of State, and he said, "Yeah, but that's just one issue, one ballot. But each ballot would be counted at the precinct level. So you're close to that one issue, one ballot. You might have several, but it's at the precinct level. So you're not including 160 different voting issues, which is what happens in Kootenai County. I know our county has many districts, taxing districts, as well as people that are running for election. So you have a fairly complicated ballot, but not at the precinct level. At the precinct level, it's a fairly simple ballot. And that's what we saw in the caucus. In the caucus, people came in. Some of them brought their voter registration card or the postcards that were mailed to them. They showed their identification at the proper precinct, and they were handed a ballot, as you're showing on the screen right there, and they voted. And we had all the election done within, I guess it was about 2 hours. We were done in about 2 hours. Yeah. So it worked very quickly, very easily. And it was open to the public. Everyone could watch.
Everyone
Yeah,
could
look at those folks. They're just
ballot-
sitting around there watching everything. Yeah.
Exactly. You could watch the ballot count. You saw the empty box at the beginning to show that there were no votes in there. So, that's the
Yep.
way it ought to go. We really need
to borrow a phrase, this is what democracy looks like.
No,
Transparency.
this is what a representative republic looks like.
There we go. Absolutely. This is what a representative republic looks like. Excellent. All right. Well, Representative Alfieri, thank you for joining us. I know all in all, this bill passed committee this morning with a do pass recommendation. So it is a good start, like you said. So we support this bill going forward in terms of election integrity.
It's a good bill. It's a good bill. It's not a perfect bill, but it's a good bill. So I did vote for it. It passed the committee. It'll go to the floor this week because I think I'm hoping we're going to wrap up this week. And it should go through.
All right, very good. All right, well, we have your info scrolling there on the bottom, joeforidaho.com, and at X at joeforidaho. Anywhere else that people can follow you?
Well, you've got Facebook and you've got my website, so that's it. Yeah, that's it. You've got it all.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you, Joe. Thanks for joining us. Representative Joe Alfieri, everybody. We
My
will
pleasure.
see you. Well, have a great week.
You too. Bye.
All right.